Alright, before we get started, first of all, if you haven't seen the video on my main channel, which is the demonstration of chunk skipping I did, then you should go watch that first before you watch this. And secondly, this tutorial is going to be using the world download of chunk skipping from my Discord server. It's in the Crisp Downloads channel. The Discord link will be in the description. Download that first before you continue watching. Also, massive thank you to Crisp for basically doing all the research on chunk skipping and building the machine and everything. They're really fucking cool. Subscribe to their channel, which is also in the description. So the first thing you'll notice when you enter the chunk skipping download is this command block, which you're supposed to click, but you also might wonder what this is. This is a light suppressor, which basically just, well, suppresses light and doesn't allow chunks to load at all. This is useful if there's any guards in the prison that are keeping the prison loaded, which is not good for chunk skipping. So you can just wait for a server restart and then immediately turn this guy on so no chunks can be loaded by any guards, and therefore you can do chunk skipping just well. All you have to do to activate it is flick this lever, which I will not dare do, so it is a frame killer and I'm recording right now. So now let's go on to the actual world, and the first thing you'll notice is some credits. So I'm the video editor, chunk skip device, and shout out to this Fly Gamer for building the cell exterior. I like to call it Hades Small. We kind of based it off of Hades Vault, but it actually came kind of its own little thing. I like it. Now this is the chunk skip canon itself, but in order to understand how chunk skipping works, you do need to know the different types of chunks. The first type of chunk is a loaded chunk. It's basically just everything is processed. Entities are fully processed, blocks are fully processed, pretty much like everything's fine, right? Lazy loaded chunks are just chunks where entity processing is disabled, but everything else is fine. Entities are still loaded, they just aren't processed. And obviously blocks are just fine. Border loaded is basically entities are just out of the picture completely. They're completely unloaded, right? And blocks are almost the same way. Block updates aren't really processed, and block data also isn't processed. But block collisions are processed in border loaded chunks. The final type of chunk is an unloaded chunk, where basically nothing is processed, nothing is loaded, everything is void. Players can't enter unloaded chunks at all, even if you use light suppression. And if an entity enters an unloaded chunk, then it will just get unloaded. Unless we launch it past an unloaded chunk in a tick. That's where chunk skipping comes in. You see, when an entity goes a certain amount of distance in a tick, the game checks to see if it passed through any loaded, lazy loaded, or border loaded chunks along the way. And if it did, then it'll detect a collision and then it will stop the entity at that specific chunk. Except for unloaded chunks. If an entity goes fast enough through an unloaded chunk to just not get unloaded, then you can basically just teleport entities wherever you want. So, since this whole explanation was so complicated, you think that doing chunk skipping on this world download would be a whole load of voodoo magic, right? Well, actually, no, it's extremely simple. All you have to do is push this button, ignore the name, then you turn on this lever, right? And then you go through here, and then you wait. It has apparently been launched twice. That's probably a bug from waiting so long. But yeah, let's enter through, and as you can see, the llama is gone. Inside the cell is our fishy boy's father, is our llama, and you can put whatever items you want inside of the llama to give to the prisoner. In this case, you'd give like a bed and maybe some harming potions or like a lava bucket. Now, let's say that didn't go according to plan. Let's say that the chunk skipping failed. And I'm just going to assume that the llama is completely gone and you can't find it anywhere. If you're having a different issue, then you can tell us in my Discord server. The first thing you should do if something goes wrong is to click these buttons right here. This will just align the llamas correctly and just make sure that everything is, I guess, aligned properly in order to go straight ahead into the cell. The next thing you should do is to check if this portal loader is working correctly. As you can see, the minecart is going and you hear a clicking sound. If you don't see this, maybe put some minecarts in here, and if there's minecarts in here and it's bugging out for whatever reason, again, just contact us and we can deal with it. And then the final thing you should check is just the other portal loader over here. Again, same thing, it just brings the minecart back and forth through the portal. And if it isn't doing this, then, well, you know what to do. That's pretty much the whole world download explained. Me, Crisp, and Fly put a lot of work into this, so downloading it would be nice. And yeah, hope this helps with your chunk skipping endeavors, and see ya. Did I break something? I think I broke something. Whoa. What the fuck did I break? Oh. Gonna have to replace your sign, Fly.